What's up, Permadeath? Pyrostasis here, and today I'm going to be talking about a game called State of Decay, and basically answering the question, should you play this game or not? Now, first off, you're going to be asking, what type of game is State of Decay? Well, State of Decay, I don't know, it kind of is one part DayZ, one part Grand Theft Auto, sort of, and one part third-person shooter. And it doesn't really fit into any of those individual game genres, but it does have a solid game, and for a $20 price point, I was rather impressed by what I saw. So let's talk about the features first. First off, you're going to notice when you get in the game, you and your buddy have been stranded after a camping trip. You come back to civilization to find out the zombie apocalypse happened while you were out sipping some cold ones on a lake somewhere. So you do start off with this relatively buff guy, and you're kind of overweight, dumpy friend, and you guys are trying to survive in this apocalypse. Now, you've got skill sets, so as you use your weapons more, like if you do a lot of melees, you're going to get a little bit better at melee attacks. You're going to get stronger hits, things like that. If you use your gun a lot, you're going to get skills up in guns. There's cardio. When you first start off, you may struggle to run fast for a long period of time. The more you run, etc., etc. So you've got a real character development setup. You've also got a nice wide variety of weapons. So when you first start off, you've basically got a melee weapon like a 2x4, and that's about it. And as you scavenge from houses like you would in DayZ or WarZ, you're going to find more tools, machetes, blades, oars, 2x4s, all sorts of different kinds of melee weapons. And you'll also find different sorts of guns, shotguns, rifles, Glocks, all sorts of handguns, things like that, which really adds to the flavor of the game. Now, obviously, if you're using melee weapons, you're not going to attract quite as many zombies as you will if you're using, loud-ass guns. Now, that being said, you can also put silencers on your weapons and things like that and customize them. Now, later on in the game, which we'll get to in a little bit, you can actually get workbenches and things like that and actually craft certain supplies, which will allow you to build silencers. So you won't always have to find one in the world. And that's kind of the other thing I want to talk about is you actually have, not only do you have your player character where you're, trying to level up those skills by use, trying to find new weapons and upgrades, you also have a base back at base camp that you're trying to protect. And this base is constantly in danger of being, detected by the zombies. And you've got to, build up the defenses. You can build watchtowers. You can build an infirmary, dorms, so that you can have more people sleeping there at once and kind of bolster your numbers. You've got a ton of different options. And each of those different structures has different perks for it. Like if you set up a kitchen and you've got somebody who can cook, you can have a meal to kind of boost everybody's morale. If you've got an opening for a watchtower, you can put a sniper up there who can push the zombie horde back a distance. So when you're walking out the front gate, it's not like, zombie hell as soon as you step out. And you can kind of tell how the game's going based on how your base is feeling and how the people feel there and just how the environment is directly outside of your base. While I was playing, I was mainly focusing for the first hour on just the missions alone. So, it's go get this, go get that, go get this. And I wasn't really engaging the zombies. Well, because of that, the zombie hordes, as you're active, they kind of build up. You get these houses that become infestations. So the zombies kind of accumulate there. And when you get enough of these infestations, the people back at base camp start getting scared. I mean, obviously, there's all these houses that are just full of zombies. Well, if you don't take enough of these out, then zombie hordes start rolling through. So you got like 15 zombies in this big old pack walking up and down the street. And if they see or hear anything, all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. Well, usually in a game where you have a base, you get back to base and everything's all good. You're safe, no problems, you're back at base. Not in State of Decay. You retreat back to base and the zombies will come with you. And it gets crazy. So, if you bring the horde back to base, you're going to have to fight the horde at base. And yeah, sometimes, you'll have some skilled people that can help you. But, if you bring 2 hordes, 30 some odd zombies, it's going to take you, it may take you 20-30 minutes to clean it up. That's if you've got enough ammo, if you're not hurt or wounded, etc., etc. And that brings us to the other side of the game. The game has a wonderful stamina system. Now, if you've ever played DayZ or some of these other zombie games, you can sprint in them forever. It's like you are playing some kind of super mutant, superhuman, like triathlon badass that never gets tired. He can sprint for days. And the problem with that is once you get a decent amount of gear, some decent setups, you're no longer afraid of really mixing it up with the monsters because you're this, superhuman dude. Well, while you're playing State of Decay, you're going to have this blue stamina bar to the left of your map. And the stamina bar, the more actions you do, the more it goes down. So if you're sprinting around and you come up on a zombie, well, you've been sprinting, so you've been reducing your stamina. Now, when you go to swing at the guy, if your stamina's drained, it's going to be a harder fight because you're going to swing slower, you're not going to hit as hard, etc., etc. Well, if you bump into a horde of zombies, now you've got 6 or 7 zombies. Well, if you've got 1 zombie and you're tired, okay, you can beat him to death with a stick, no problem. If you've got 7 or 8 zombies on you and you're swinging like a grandma, you're going to hit that 1 zombie, but those other 4 or 5 zombies are going to jump on you and start eating you, and it just really breaks down bad. So unlike a lot of these games, if you get overwhelmed, you're not paying attention, you're not really focusing on stealth or being sneaky, and you can get into a horde of zombies, and if you don't have stamina, you can't sprint away. You can't run away. And even if you make it back to your base, they're going to fight at your base. So you've got to be very careful how you engage fights, and that kind of adds a whole new level of depth to the game that a lot of these other games kind of miss out on because, you do have to be careful. It is a zombie apocalypse. You're not just going to go out and just go crazy. And that adds the final feature that I really, really like, and that's permadeath. If you screw up and you die, that character is gone. She's removed from the game, or he's removed from the game, and their stuff drops where they are. So the next character that you run out there, you can go and pick that person's stuff up, and then you can bring it back, and it affects morale when somebody dies. People kind of freak out, people kind of panic. Maybe that character had some really good relationships, and your character doesn't quite have so many good relationships, and it really changes the way, or at least the way I played the game. Because, like I said, you got to be careful with that character. That house is infected. It's nighttime. I got my flashlight. Maybe I should wait till the morning to clear it out. Or maybe I should, go get a buddy and come back on a group mission instead of doing it just solo or something along those lines. So you got to really think about what you're doing before you do it. Another thing I want to talk about is the size of the world. Usually when I pay $20 for a game, I don't expect the world to be very large. From what I've read on the forums, I believe the world is 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers. And as you can see here, that map's actually pretty big. When you get playing in the game, at first things feel kind of small, and then you zoom out, and then you zoom out, and then you zoom out. And it's like, holy crap, this is a fairly decent sized map. And unlike DayZ or WarZ and things like that, there's plenty of vehicles. I mean, even DayZ's got vehicles, but there's plenty of vehicles to get around. There are a few long stretches of road here and there, but the availability of vehicles makes it to where it's not quite such a big deal. And you usually stay relatively close to your area. I mean, just like in a real zombie apocalypse, you're not going to go wandering off into, some strange territory to try and, kind of explore things all that often. You may reach out occasionally, but you're going to stay next to where it's safe. So the mission system is really cool. I liked that. You're constantly offered missions. You can search for supplies. Your base camp has several different resources that you need to maintain, and these resources affect kind of the mood of your people. You've got food, you've got medical supplies, you've got guns, you've got gas, and you've got building supplies. Building supplies obviously are used to fortify your fort, increase the different buildings, increase the size of the dorm, etc., etc. Food you can use to cook things to have like a Thanksgiving meal to boost morale. Guns and ammo, obviously kind of self-explanatory there. Gotta have bullets. If you don't have bullets, you can't shoot zombies. If you don't have weapons, you can't kill zombies. Things get bad relatively quickly. Kind of like you would really think you can't exactly beat a zombie to death with your bare hands. So things get kind of challenging there. So you've got to make sure that you get these basic needs met at all times. You'll find other survivors out there that you can hook up with. And it feels like a real world that you're actually interacting with and kind of learning, you know, eaching out your little safe place here on the outskirts of humanity, and hopefully over time growing a nice survival base. So I think I spent about 6 or 7 hours in the game over the past 2 days. I haven't spent as much time with it as I want. Definitely plan on doing a Let's Play series on the channel over the next couple days. But in general, I gotta say I'm very, very impressed. You know, like I said, for $20, I think this is an amazing steal. At the moment, it is an Xbox Live exclusive, but it will be available on PC sometime in the near future. At the moment, it is also only a single-player game, but the developers have been talking about adding some form of co-op multiplayer in the future. It's something that they wanted to do. It's not in yet, but it is something that will hopefully be added later on. And, you know, just the fact that they're still working on supporting the title, still adding some things, kind of makes me feel really solid about the game. So for me personally, I got to give the game a big thumbs up. I think it's definitely worth playing for $20. It's definitely worth it. I think if you are into zombie games, survival games, or just beating the hell out of things and kind of getting that RPG element to keep things interesting, it's definitely worth it. In my time playing, I only saw a couple small bugs. If you dodge right next to a door, sometimes you can go through the door and wind up on the inside, which can be really bad if there's like 15 zombies on the other side of the door pounding trying to get in. There were some quirky sneak mechanics. It seemed to me that the sneaking system didn't always work, you know, the way I thought it should, but it could just be the fact that I was still getting used to the system and may not be using it correctly. After reading the forums, it seems like they are releasing quite a lot of updates, fixing the few bugs that there are, and I think it's going to shape up over the next couple weeks to be a really solid game. So if you guys haven't checked this out, I strongly recommend it. You can pick it up right now on Xbox Live for 1,600 Microsoft points. Definitely worth it, and hopefully we'll see it on Steam in the future. Let me know what you guys think about the game and the review in the comments section below. As always, slap that like button if you liked it. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next clip.